U.S. officials told NBC News the U.S. continues to take active measures to prepare for the possibility of a nuclear test by North Korea. These include the deployment of a special nuclear sniffer aircraft, drones, and U-2 spy planes. The U.S. Air Force's special sniffer plane, known as a WC-135, is capable of detecting evidence of a nuclear explosion. In a statement, the Air Force said it had been deployed on a routine mission to Northeast Asia. These missions are planned well in advance. The Air Force said that the WC-135 flies about 150 missions annually at various locations around the world.
Russian troops and military equipment have been spotted moving near the country's border with North Korea. Amid rising tensions between North Korea and the United States, video out of Russia's easternmost region appears to show heavily armored military vehicles traveling south toward the border. Interfax news agency reports an army spokesman denies that Russia is beefing up its border presence, saying instead movement was part of scheduled military exercises. Meanwhile, the Kremlin isn't commenting. On Friday, April 21st, Russian presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov said only that troop deployment was not a public issue. During his Monday visit to the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence warned Pyongyang, quote, "The era of strategic patience is over." The comments were made in the wake of a failed North Korean ballistic missile test. On Thursday, the UN Security Council condemned North Korea's actions and demanded that the country comply with its international obligations. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Matt Paul.
On Thursday, Russia's Supreme Court ruled that Jehovah's Witnesses was an extremist organization. Russian news agencies reported the church must hand over all its property to the state. A Russian Jehovah's Witnesses representative said the group will appeal the decision in the European Court of Human Rights. Russian authorities have put several of the group's publications on a list of banned extremist literature. Prosecutors have long cast it as an organization that destroys families, fosters hatred, and threatens lives. The group is a United States-based, non-Trinitarian Christian denomination known for its door-to-door preaching. It rejects military service and blood transfusions. The denomination decries the Russian description as false. The religious organization has about 8 million active followers.
Nearly 4,800 acres in Collier County have been charred by wildfires so far, and many residents have been forced to evacuate their homes. According to the Naples Daily News, some residents have resisted firefighters' calls to leave their homes. Florida Governor Rick Scott has called on National Guard troops to help residents with the evacuations. After meeting with fire officials, Governor Scott issued a statement saying these wildfires are dangerous, and if you're within the evacuation area, do not stay in your home. 2 fires broke out on Thursday, and about 200 firefighters are working to combat the blazes.
The Philippines announced it will hold annual military exercises with the United States in May, despite recent uncertainty over the two countries' future military cooperation. The decision comes after President Rodrigo Duterte called for the exercises to be canceled and for the U.S. to withdraw troops from the Philippines. Unlike in previous years, the 10-day drills won't include simulations of protecting disputed territory or be held on the island of Palawan. They also won't involve live fire. The changes reflect the warming of relations between the Philippines and China. Last month, Duterte invited China to send a Navy ship to visit. This year's drills will focus on humanitarian assistance and counterterrorism. The Philippine Army is battling terrorist group Abu Sayyaf, which is responsible for kidnappings, beheadings, and bombings in the country. The Philippine military green-lighted the drills on April 16th. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Neela Uni.
CBS News has reported that the Florida manatee, a state symbol that was once on the verge of extinction, has made a big comeback. Manatees were recently reclassified from endangered to a threatened species. Tampa's Lowry Park Zoo is one of 3 acute care facilities for manatees in Florida, where vets heal them and in some cases just try to save their lives. After decades of bringing the manatee population back to life, the issue is whether they still deserve to be treated as endangered. Some worry the enormous mammals will lose special protections they need to save them from their number one threat, people.
It is not too early to begin preparing for the Great American Solar Eclipse of August 21st, 2017, and the sun's position on the days leading up to it will offer a perfect dress rehearsal for that historic event. When preparing for the eclipse, an important aspect to consider is the sun's location in the sky for your location. Across the western third of the United States, the eclipse will reach its peak during the late morning hours. Over the nation's midsection, the maximum eclipse will come at midday. And for the eastern third of the country, the time of greatest coverage of the sun by the moon will happen in early to mid-afternoon.
A power outage struck San Francisco on Friday, leaving 90,000 people with no electricity. The fire department reported that it had responded to over 100 service calls, including 20 stuck elevators, but that no injuries were reported. Pacific and electric crews do not currently have an estimate for restoration of electricity, but are assessing the problem. Earlier reports indicate that firefighters and utility crews were at a substation fire, but it is currently unclear if that was related to the outage.
U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis said that there is no doubt that Syria still has chemical weapons. Speaking on April 21st during a visit to Israel, Mattis said that Syria has retained chemical weapons in violation of its agreement and its statement that it had removed them all. Mattis warned Syrian President Bashar al-Assad that he would be ill-advised to try to use chemical weapons again after the alleged attack on April 4th, which killed more than 80 people. The U.S. responded by launching airstrikes on a Syrian military airfield. Mattis also said that the Syrian government has dispersed its warplanes in recent days, suggesting possible concerns about further missile strikes by the U.S. Mattis refused to elaborate on the number of chemical weapons or how the Pentagon knows about their existence, saying, quote, "We don't want to reveal how we're finding out." For Newsbeat Social from Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin Mangum.
With more than 1,600 cases of the disease reported in 2017 across 19 of the country's 21 regions, an outbreak of measles is spreading across Italy. According to the European Centers for Disease Control, the number of cases seen so far this year is already higher than the total number of cases seen during all of 2016. The outbreak adds to concern among European health officials who have been monitoring an ongoing outbreak in Romania. There, almost 4,800 cases have been reported since the start of 2016. According to the World Health Organization, the country has also seen 21 deaths.
It's about to get tougher to apply for citizenship in Australia. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull announced the overhaul April 20th. He says, quote, "There is no more important title in our democracy than Australian citizen, and that institution must reflect Australian values. Moving forward, applicants will have to pass an English test comprised of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Residency requirements will jump from 1 year to 4. The citizenship test itself will also get tougher, with new questions to assess an immigrant's commitment to shared Aussie values. Turnbull says citizenship should reflect fundamental values like respect, rule of law, freedom, and democracy, not just whether an applicant knows how many senators serve in Parliament. The Sydney Morning Herald reports there will be a 6-week consultation period to shape the new policies. Opposition leader Bill Shorten reportedly describes some of the changes as reasonable, but also suggests they pander to the right wing. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Matt Paul.
Romania has requested to buy Patriot air and missile defense systems from the U.S. government. According to an April 20th report from Reuters, Romania plans to purchase these Patriot systems in an effort to modernize its military. It's also reportedly part of the NATO members' plan to increase its annual spending on defense. Romania has been a NATO member since 2004 and is a strong U.S. ally in Eastern Europe. Raytheon confirmed Romania's intent to procure the Patriot, saying in a statement, quote, "Raytheon has a long-standing relationship with Romania and will work closely with the U.S. and Romanian governments to ensure this NATO partner achieves its defense objectives." How many missiles Romania will buy and the total cost are still unknown. The Patriot missiles would be part of an integrated air defense system that includes 6 F-16 fighter jets Romania recently purchased. For Newsbeat Social from Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin Mangum.
One Bose customer believes the company is spying on consumers. Kyle Zach has filed a proposed class action lawsuit to stop the practice. Zach alleges Bose uses its wireless headphones and companion Bose Connect app to violate the U.S. Wiretap Act. He believes the company is secretly collecting, transmitting, and disclosing its customers' private music and audio selections to third parties. In the lawsuit, Zach says our musical preferences reveal a lot about people's personalities and political leanings. The suit wants to stop Bose's disregard for customers' privacy.
A utility company spokesman says the San Francisco power outage that left thousands in the dark was caused by a catastrophic failure of a circuit breaker. That failure in turn caused a fire at a power substation. Pacific Gas and Electric spokesman Barry Anderson says power has been restored to about 23,000 of the 90,000 customers affected. They previously had lost power in a massive swath of the central city. He says soot from the debris of the fire swept across the area, taking out more customers. In a statement posted on its website, PG&E says it expects to restore power to about 25,000 more customers in the next few hours. It said power would be restored to remaining customers late in the afternoon.
An alcohol-fueled racist tirade has cost a Miami senator his job. Republican Senator Frank Artiles officially submitted his letter of resignation on Friday. In his resignation letter, Artiles wrote, "I apologize to my family and friends, and I apologize to all of my fellow senators and lawmakers. To the people of my district and all of Miami-Dade, I am sorry. I have let you down and ask for your forgiveness." Witnesses claim that he was using a form of the N-word during an exchange with African-American colleagues Monday night.
India's Home Affairs Minister Rajnath Singh has called on state governments to protect students from Indian-administered Kashmir. The announcement came after Kashmiri University students were attacked April 19th in the state of Rajasthan. The attackers were reportedly angered by clashes between protesters and Indian security forces in Kashmir. Additionally, a billboard went up in the state of Uttar Pradesh depicting Kashmiris throwing stones. The billboard also tells Kashmiris to leave the state. Clashes between students and security forces are common in Indian-administered Kashmir, where most people either want independence or unity with Pakistan. Kashmir is divided between India and Pakistan, both of which claim the region in its entirety. Singh tweeted April 21st, quote, "Kashmiris are a part of our family." He went on to say he directed states to ensure the safety and security of Kashmiri students. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Matt Paul.
NASA scientists have taken the first pictures of a massive crack in one of Greenland's largest glaciers. On April 14th, scientists with NASA's Operation Icebridge flew over the Petermann Glacier ice shelf to photograph the mysterious rift. The crack appears near the center of the ice shelf and is close to a larger split currently spreading toward the ice shelf center. Researchers said if the cracks meet, an enormous piece of the ice shelf could break away. In 2010, a chunk 4 times the size of Manhattan broke off the Petermann Glacier, and another about 1/4 that size split in 2012. But the NASA team noted some potentially good news. The main flow of the glacier's ice intersects with the new crack and may stop it from spreading. Scientists don't yet know why the crack formed, but warmer temperatures or warmer water underneath the shelf might be to blame. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Gary Brigoldwell. Scientists said a potentially hazardous asteroid flew past Earth on the night of April 19th. Obviously, we're all still here. But if you're a pics or it didn't happen kind of person, NASA's got you covered. The U.S. Space Agency has released images of asteroid 2014 J025 taken by the Goldstone Solar System radar in California. The peanut-shaped space rock is said to be about 2,000 feet across. That's about the length of 6 NFL football fields. NASA said we were never in any danger, but it called this week's flyby, quote, a very close approach for an asteroid of this size. Now, very close actually translated to a distance of about 1 million miles. Still, it marked the asteroid's closest encounter with Earth in the past 400 years. NASA said Earthlings won't have to worry about it coming this close again for at least 5 more centuries. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Gary Caldwell.
A power outage on Friday morning in San Francisco hit about 90,000 people, and at least several blocks of the financial district lost electricity. The outage affected central and northern parts of the city, according to the city's Department of Emergency Management. Spokesperson Francis Zamora said the cause was not yet clear and that crews were responding to try to fix the problem, which began around 9 a.m.
A human rights monitoring group says the South Korean military is tracking down and prosecuting gay soldiers. The Military Human Rights Center for Korea says a witch hunt began after a video was posted online earlier this year showing 2 male soldiers having sex. Gay men are not barred from serving in the military, but engaging in homosexual activity while serving is illegal. It carries a sentence of up to 2 years in prison. On April 21st, the Associated Press reported that the head of the rights group, Im Da-hoon, said investigators are checking communications records and pressuring soldiers to out gay comrades. Im even said investigators are using dating apps to trick soldiers into revealing their sexual identity. The center has accused Army Chief of Staff Jang Jung-kyu of ordering the investigations. Meanwhile, the Army has denied that there is a wide-ranging hunt for gay soldiers. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Matt Paul.
The U.S. Justice Department said in a statement an 18-year-old man who holds dual U.S. and Israeli citizenship was charged on Friday with making threatening calls to Jewish community centers in Florida. Michael Ron David Kadar is named in a criminal complaint filed in Orlando, Florida. He is accused of making calls to the community centers from January to March. The statement said the calls involved bomb threats and active shooters. According to the statement, Kadar was recently arrested in Israel.
A new study finds that each year, about 51,000 people in the United States visit the emergency room after being injured by law enforcement. Researchers analyzed existing emergency room data spanning 2006 to 2012. They say most of the 355,000 visits involved minor injuries. About 1,200, or 0.3%, resulted in death. Findings appear in the journal JAMA Surgery. While public attention has, quote, surged in recent years, authorities say the annual figure, 51,000 ER visits, was stable over the 7-year period. Over 80% of patients injured by law enforcement were men. The average age was 32. Substance abuse and mental illness were common. The study's lead author, Dr. Eleanor Kaufman, says that while it's impossible to determine how many of these injuries were avoidable, the numbers provide a baseline that may help to mitigate law enforcement-related injuries in the future. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Matt Paul.
On Friday, the Justice Department formally charged a teen in connection with a series of threats to Jewish community centers, schools, and commercial airline flights. Michael Ron David Kadar was arrested by Israeli police in March. He is charged in Florida and Georgia with making interstate threats related to explosives, perpetuating a hoax, cyberstalking, and conveying false information. Kadar is accused of making threats as far back as August of 2015 to Georgia elementary schools.
On Friday, the United States Treasury Department announced that ExxonMobil will not be granted a waiver to allow it to resume drilling around the Black Sea. The decision is the latest indication that the White House is backing away from statements made from Donald Trump during his 2016 campaign, where he said he would relax sanctions imposed on Russia by the Obama administration. In a statement, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said that the Treasury Department will not be issuing waivers to U.S. companies, including Exxon, authorizing drilling prohibited by current Russian sanctions.
President Donald Trump's travel ban on citizens of 6 Muslim-majority nations faces its second challenge at a U.S. appeals court next month. More Republican states are backing the measure. One Democratic state attorney general has dropped out of the legal fight this week. According to legal experts, the state's realignment could signal that the changes made last month to Trump's original executive order were enough to strengthen the government's case. 16 Democratic state attorneys general and the District of Columbia on Thursday filed a friend of the court brief backing Hawaii in its bid to block the March 6th executive order. 2 federal judges had put the order on hold before it could be implemented.